Hi, everybody, and welcome to the last Joe and Joe weather show on a Sunday morning in 2020. So you've got last Sunday morning show 2020. Those are the two variables here. There are more Joe and Joe shows to come this week and beyond. And the Joe and Joe weather show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider of everything you need when it comes to dealing with winter storms. And there will be more. We already had one, and there will be more in the future. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125. And not only do they have all the rock salt you could possibly need, but they also have all the high quality dough melting products like Mag Ice Pellets and Flakes, Omni Melt, and Petalo, which a lot of the snow removal guys have told me is the best stuff out there. So OmniTrueValue.com, just north of the Southern State Parkway in West Babylon, 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. And here we are, Joe Rayo, post Christmas. There you go. And of course, I just noticed there's a YouTube message just came up and says, your YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So just a nice way to start a Sunday morning. I guess everybody gets on the systems around here at 11 o'clock in the morning to slow it down. Maybe if Optimum would speed me up to the 100 Mbps that we're supposed to be at, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. So, Santa did you well?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I should have brought
What's the tally?
one of the gifts in that my daughter gave me. All for a couple of days leading up to Christmas, there was a package, and all she wrote on the front of the package was "Come on down," and I couldn't understand what that was a reference to, other than the Price is Right.
Right.
And no, it was not a Price is Right home game, but it was pretty close to that.
Or what was
wheel. It? Yeah. Hang on. Can you hang on for like 15 seconds?
Sure, no problem. I'm really dying of curiosity here to see what this is. While Joe's doing that, just want to tell everybody, I hope everyone had a great Christmas, and now we are going to move forward to New Year's. If you haven't hit the like button already, hit that like button. We'd love to get it up over 100 likes. That's always our aim here, to just get to 100 likes. So smash the like button if you haven't smashed it already. Oh no. No. Plinko? I didn't realize that Plinko was its own game.
I didn't realize it either. But here you go. I have a Plinko, Price is Right Plinko home game. So now I can make believe that I'm on Price is Right and play Plinko to my heart's content.
Well, what's the point of it, though? I mean, does it come with real cash that you can win, or?
I don't know what it contains. I haven't opened it. I asked my daughter, I said, do one of the models come in the box? But she said, I don't think so. This is a mini model. So there you go. That was the highlight of my Christmas so far.
Well, the highlight of my weekend, my Christmas weekend, was seeing Terrence Cardinal Fitzgerald on News 12 Long Island last night.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's there. I don't know on a regular basis, but he's among those who come in during the weekends, and it's nice to see that he's in front of the camera doing his thing. Because at this time last year, Joe, he was doing his thing, but he was doing it behind the camera for NBC News. He was the guy who made all the weather graphics during a major storm or whatever, and whoever was behind the anchor desk, Jose Bilar, for example, or if there was a major storm and you saw a map of the United States, you saw the isobars and the rain and the radar and everything. Who created that? But our own Brian Fitzgerald.
Brian, we used to work with Brian. He was the big cheese over at the FiOS One News weather department. We worshiped the ground he walked on because we couldn't get days off without his approval.
Exactly.
Naturally, he was so incredibly difficult at accommodating everybody. I'm just kidding. It's actually exact opposite. A lot of times, folks, you got to understand my humor. I may mean exactly the opposite of what I'm saying. David Schwartz hitting super chat from the get go. Thank you, David. Joe and I appreciate that greatly. Goes into the champagne till for New Year's Eve. So, I don't know how much you got to look at things, but I have, and I posted this to my subscription group this morning. I want to see what the next couple of runs of the GFS what they do, and I'm not talking about the system for the and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, Joe. I think the window may have opened up a crack for maybe opened up a crack for the period from around January 4th, 5th, let's say January 5th to January 7th, somewhere in there. And I'll show you a little later on when we get to it. But meanwhile, we got this next system for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And initially, it looked like it was going to be a repeat performance of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with those 70-mile-an-hour winds. It doesn't quite look like that now.
Well, here up here in Putnam Valley, I was amazed. Christmas Eve was a white Christmas Eve here. We still had a good amount of the 10 plus inches of snow that we received from the from the snowstorm for the previous week. And then when I woke up on Christmas morning and looked out the window, I said, somebody stole our snow. I'd say right now there's only the barest amount of evidence that it snowed a couple of weeks ago. Overnight, with the rain, with the fog, and with the temperatures, Joe, it hit 62 degrees at 3:09 a.m. on Christmas
It's
morning up
amazing,
here.
wasn't it?
It was incredible how warm it got. And then as we went through the day on Christmas Day, everything just slowly but surely slid down through the 50s in the morning, 40s by the afternoon. By the time we got to Christmas evening, it was already in the 30s, and it was a
Yeah,
cold one out there last night.
same here. I went to bed and we still had some snow cover on the ground. Not a lot, but there was still some, and maybe an inch on the grassy surfaces. And there were certainly pockets with holes. And I mean, it was all even the piles from the parking lot in the supermarket parking lots, which were like ski slopes. They were gone, with or at least maybe reduced down to just the tiniest little spot. And the other thing that Bill Huber on the board, the same thing happened to him that happened to me. I don't know why, but I happened to sleep right through the night, and I hear everything when it rains or when there's wind. I slept right through the wind, so much so when I woke up the next morning, which I slept a little late for me. I woke up at around 7:30, 8 o'clock. I was wondering, did we not get the wind during the overnight? Because I for sure expected to be woken up. And then I discovered that we had, gusts of 70 and 80 miles an hour and a few trees down, some power outages, thankfully not mine. But it started to look as if the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day system was going to be almost a repeat performance, and now it's evolved into something else. And I haven't, I've got the GFSs loading. I haven't looked at the new model run, but I'm
It's
thinking
only out
that
to, it's only out to about 150 hours right now.
okay, good. Once it gets out to 200 hours or so, I'm going to be happier as I get to see if my vision is correct for January 5th through 7th. There's a little crack in the window there. Uh, but now it looks like we're going to have a lead system come out on Thursday that's going to go to our north. A cold front's going to sink southward. A high is going to build up in eastern Canada and New England, and you're going to get some, cold air, cool air, let's call it, or raw air down at the bottom of the atmosphere. And then you're going to have to wait for the next low. Once the main low comes out, I just don't see this producing the same in crazy weather that we saw for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad.
I thank goodness that we, at least here, we did not have any power outages. There were power outages in our town of Putnam Valley, but I did not lose power. Neither did my son or daughter-in-law, who lives not too far from here. And the nicest thing for them is that their a new generator was delivered on Christmas Eve. So they were all set just in case something did happen. At least they had that protection behind them. But um, It was, I don't know, you said you didn't wake up at all. For me, it was a restless night. I mean, the winds were howling at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. I don't think we had much greater wind than 50 miles an hour. I think actually up here we've had worse in terms of wind events, but it was certainly bad enough. There's some broken tree limbs in the back yard here that I'm going to have to take care of. But it was pretty rough. And again, I'm just very happy that at least here we did not lose power, but we did pick up about 1 3/4 inches of rain, and again a goodly amount of that, plus the fog, plus the incredibly warm temperatures, went a long way to getting rid of a lot of the snow. It was more. Let's put it this way: it was a white Christmas Eve, but it was a green Christmas Day. That's how fast the snow was erased in a
Right.
matter of just hours.
And it was just another upside down storm because they had a white Christmas down into North Georgia. The areas in North Georgia that I usually visit, which is up in Union County, right at the base of the Appalachians there and the Smokies, and you've got at about 2,000 feet elevation or higher. It was a white Christmas. It was 1 to 2 inches. My daughter, outside of Atlanta in Marietta, had the ground whitened up on Christmas Eve. It was such a big thrill for them, and for I was reading some of the news stories. Folks in Atlanta were jumping for joy. A little bit of snow distracted them from the day-to-day stuff that's been going on for what seems like forever now with respect to COVID and everything else. So it brought people some joy, and that is, I think, a big deal. So
So
uh,
now, so now let's see. The only daughter who hasn't had a white Christmas in recent years, I guess, is the one in Ohio.
no, she had one.
Oh, she had one.
If she had stayed home, she would have had one. She actually went down to Atlanta. So
Okay.
this Christmas. So yeah, all my kids they've all had white Christmases at least once in the last 5 years. So and even Daddy has had white Christmas too when he was suspended in Connecticut. Anyway, we got the U.S. satellite loop rolling along here. Got another weather system that's crossing the Great Lakes this morning, but here in the north, in the east, away from the Great Lakes, and then down through the southeast and into Florida. Having a fairly nice day today. The core of the cold air moved overhead overnight. Now is moving out to the east, and we're getting more energy. A sort of endless flow of northern and southern stream systems continues with energy coming into the southwest and into Southern California and the southwest in that order. And here's the view from Canada, by the way. Take a look, Joe, in the upper right, you can actually see the impact of this negative North Atlantic oscillation that we have, the higher than normal pressures in the North Atlantic, because the clouds are moving south to north from the Atlantic over Nova Scotia and up toward Greenland on the backside of the ridge there. That's built in the Atlantic all the way up to Greenland, and that's going to be a feature that's going to hang around for a while, and it might even strengthen a bit as we go through the weekend and move into next week.
And I do believe, Joe. I mean, look at that long. There's that long, skinny band, so to speak, that is moving out from the Atlantic Ocean and across Newfoundland, and then all the way up. It's almost like a wall. It's like it can't go to the east or northeast. So the only thing you can do is just go from south to north.
And it even turns northwestward
Right.
up
Kind of
to
curves
reach.
northwestward over eastern. I guess that's Quebec. Um, yeah.
Yeah, Quebec, and then on up toward Labrador, and it moves on north from there. But it just shows you how just out of whack everything is. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, you have troughing that covers about 2 or 3 thousand miles of lower than normal pressures across the East Pacific, Joe, and that's going to be something that's going to hang around for a while and play. Uh, Obviously, it's going to be playing a role in our weather going forward for this coming week. The radars, I've tried. By the way, I've been playing around with the new Weather Service radar.
I hate
Uh,
it.
no, I hate it too.
I hate it. Absolutely hate it. You know, on the national on the Upton or the New York City weather page, they always had a radar at the bottom of the screen. a bit different than the other radar that they offered. But I always used to go to that for a quick look.
Right.
The new radar, they don't even have the states. At least they didn't have it as of a couple of days ago. They
Well, I
didn't even
have
have
it.
the
No, no.
boundary.
There's you got to go into this. You got to go into this complicated menu that they have. A lot of the choices of which don't work. What I did was on this one, you'll see it on the screen there. I changed the background the satellite color background,
Right.
so the echoes show up a little better. There's a choice here where you're actually supposed to be able to change it to precip type, but every time I try it, it doesn't seem to work. And then I also pulled up. Here's the local view, and it does have the states. That the problem is that there's what they need to do, in my opinion, is they need to make it like on the other interactive maps where you could see the state borders, and play around with the opacity a little bit. Also, the echoes don't show up well on this at all. If you click on the weather station you want to look at, of course, there's not much to look at here in terms of what's going on at the moment. But if we go up into the upper Midwest, if I click on Green Bay, because I know there's echoes on the radar there, I mean, when you look at this is supposed to be, I don't know if this is snow or if it's rain because the colors of the precip type are uh, almost the same as the colors. Actually, this is a color for light rain. And then I look at the scale and I finally sort of started to figure it out on the colors. The color for light rain is almost the same color as for dry snow.
Yeah.
And and yeah, then you got the salmon color for heavier rain is almost the same color as ice. So how are you supposed to, I mean, you and I can figure out the difference quickly as long as we know what the weather happens to be going on, what the temperatures happen to be going on in any particular spot. But the average person's they're gonna they're gonna mix that up. They're gonna mix that up when they look at the radar. So they need a talking to, Joe.
If we could,
Fire off a vicious email. Fire off a memo. Okay. Don't sign my name to it, but fire it off.
my, you know, who's good at writing letters after being PO'd is my wife. So maybe I should,
Let the
drop that
executive
assignment
producer.
on her or
This is a
whatever.
job for an executive producer to handle this.
Yeah.
Let her
By the
do it.
way, by the way, it is her birthday today.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Rayo.
So she's upstairs. I don't know if she's watching or whatever, but my daughter's upstairs. She's upstairs, and we're gonna have a lovely day. I hope
Good. There's
so.
no need for the musical band, the Friends of the Friendless, to show up and sing. We are friends of the friendless. Yes, we
Yes, we
are. Yes,
are.
we
Yes, we
are.
are. I have news for Lucy. If she had that episode done this year, she would have had to do it, I guess, on Zoom or Skype or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Certainly, she couldn't
exactly.
have it at the Club Babalu or the Tropicana. It
Or
was
the
that party
Tropicana.
was at the Tropicana,
Then
right?
they
Yeah,
named it later on, late in the series. It became um, uh, Club Babalu, and
yeah.
oh, Mrs. Rayo was on the board, so let's not talk anymore. Uh, all right, not much going on here, surface map wise, folks. High pressure along the East Coast, got a wavy stationary front in upstate New York. You start to see back in the middle Mississippi Valley, low pressure in Iowa and Kansas, and that's producing some snows up to the northwest of there. The folks at WPC showing a very high probability of at least 2 inches of snow from much of Nebraska, northeastward through much of Wisconsin, although it's north of Chicago. Milwaukee is in it, but Chicago may not be. Um, and on up northern Michigan on both the upper peninsula and the upper part of the lower peninsula, and a probability of at least 4 in the next 72 hours over an area from southern Minnesota, southeastern South Dakota, northernmost Iowa. They gave it an 80% or higher chance, and even a small area of 90% chance through central Wisconsin. And of course, in the Northeast, over the next 72 hours, there's nothing going on. There's a whopping 5% chance of some snow around Lake Erie on the Pennsylvania and the New York side, and also in north central New York. And this is all part of lake effect that was going on yesterday. Buffalo got hit nicely with a couple of feet. in some areas. That was their first big snowfall of the winter, coming
Right.
right in time for just at the end of Christmas and beyond. And by the way, you can see that the snow area probability also rather high in the next 72 hours in the western half of Colorado, through Utah, central Nevada, and in the Sierra Nevadas in Northern California. Now, WPC on the rainfall amounts, Joe, has really backed off over the next 7 days. They were showing another round of at least 2 to 3 inches for the northern Mid-Atlantic through New England, but they, based on the recent run of weather models, they have backed off on this. And I mean, they're still showing it about, let's say anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter, maybe an inch and a half. But they basically cut the rainfall amounts in half from what they had earlier.
I visited my mom in the Bronx on Christmas Eve, and we always pass the Springbrook Parkway. We're on the Springbrook Parkway, but we passed the Springbrook, and we couldn't believe how low the water levels were. In fact, Renato was saying that maybe they did that on purpose to prevent, during heavy rainstorms, any kind of overflow or spillover onto the parkway. But we were amazed after all the rain that we've had and the snows that the water levels on the Springbrook were so low. I don't know what's going on over
Yeah,
there.
they must have done some changes to because that the sprain always used to flood out big time,
Right.
especially down near the Bronx River with the connector at the Bronx River. But um, I they maybe with some of the construction that they're doing, um, perhaps diverting whatever streams whatever stream is there or streams that are there, maybe lessen the water flow. It could be a possibility. I'll ask one of my buddies who's public works up there, and he might be able to answer that question for me. All right, so let's roll through the GFS, take a look at what's going on. And this is the new run, so we can see how it handles this particular weather system that's coming up for the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day time frame. And of course, we've got a cold front that's coming through Monday, Joe. Doesn't look like there's going to be much of anything with that. It goes by. We've got a nice size high that comes in with a shot of cold air for Tuesday into Wednesday. It pretty much is wash, rinse, repeat of Saturday and Sunday is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday in my view. Now here's the next system. A low runs out well ahead toward the Great Lakes on Wednesday, and you can see the area of snow and rain with that. And that moves into eastern Canada. There's another high that builds in here, Joe. We're not going to. I don't know if we're going to get very much in terms of rain here on New Year's Eve. Maybe a couple of showers, but we do get a frontal passage that sinks down to maybe southern Delmarva as the high builds into near the St. Lawrence River. And by the way, on this run, I want to get close up. We've got a low in northeast Arkansas, and Joe, on the northern fringe of precip on the GFS on this run, it looks like it brings some icing. I don't know if that's freezing rain or sleet or both, but I mean, judging from the colors, I'm going to think it's freezing rain. But they've
Yeah.
got freezing rain, uh, maybe down to at least Route 84 for Friday morning on New Year's Day,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it definitely is not going to be. I really don't think it's going to be anything like what we saw on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. The low is too far left. You've got a 99 low that goes almost to Chicago, and then runs up into eastern Michigan, assuming that the GFS is correct on this.
I agree with you. Yeah. Well, and the other thing about Christmas morning, Joe, was and in fact Christmas Eve. You remember I said that we would slowly see temperatures climb during Christmas Eve into Christmas Eve night. That was quite the contrary. I mean, it was already in the mid and upper 50s during the early part of the day on Thursday, which surprised me. I would have thought there would have been some cold air damming. Now,
No, there
here,
was nothing. I mean, that southerly flow. I mean, it rained all the way up to Caribou.
right, and now the question here of what we're seeing being depicted with the potential of sleet or freezing rain for New Year's Eve night or New Year's Day morning, one has to wonder this far in advance whether that's actually going to verify or whether or not it's just going to be like what we saw with southerly winds, and I mean, regardless,
Yeah, but
we did not have,
this
but we did not have that high
no, we
uh,
didn't.
to
And
the
you know
north.
what? We've got easterly isobars here, down almost into down to Delaware. So there is some damming going on here. So that I think this is going to be a little different
Right,
in
right.
my view.
So
And of course, the snow with this is in northeastern Oklahoma and into Missouri, not into St. Louis, but as you go further north into the state, northwest Illinois, eastern Iowa, and also up into Wisconsin. You still have the isobars making that sort of V shape down through New England and into northern New Jersey, even into Friday night. If you, I'm going to, at this point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go tighter here. Um, so
take the
let's
northeast sector, or
yeah, let's get the northeast sector up, and we can take a look at this. And yeah, Joe, I mean the high goes. It's funny how the high is almost in the same position as the high was with our snowstorm a week and a half ago, and has a real tough time getting out of the way. But because of the fact that the trough is too far west. You're taking a low here that's going up to, as I said, almost to Chicago, actually northwest Indiana, and then goes north of Detroit. But the damming is there. It's going to have a tough time here. This warm front is going to have a really difficult time, I believe, pushing through much further north than say central New Jersey. It's going to be tough.
well, if that be the case, then it's going to be a completely different scenario. And of course, when we're in that more stable air mass, the winds may not be quite as robust as what we had here with those strong southerlies or those southeasterlies we had for Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, and that might be a good thing. The
Yeah,
bad thing, of course, is you know you don't want something like icy conditions. Let's say on New Year's Eve night, because so many people are on the road New Year's
sure.
Eve night, regardless of the pandemic and warnings from Dr. Fauci and whatever. There are going to be people out there celebrating come Thursday night, Friday morning, and the last thing you want to see is sleet and ice on the roadways because that's not very good if you're doing any traveling.
And that, by the way, goes all the way up into northern New England. So I
Yeah,
know, Joe, the gradient is nowhere as near as tight as it was with the New Year's the Christmas system, and that the whole setup is different. The whole setup is different here.
right.
You know the fact that we're seeing the lead system move east and push a cold front through and build a high in southeastern Canada, it makes this a totally different setup than what we've had. And of course, once that moves out, looks like later Friday or into Friday night, it gets out of the way, and then it looks like we will have a good weekend that follows for the first weekend of 2021. Now, before we get to what I wanted to talk about for the long range, just want to say thanks to those of you who have hit the like button. 55 likes is great, so let's see if we can double that in the second half of the show. And we've got just under 200 folks on, which for 2 days after Christmas ain't too shabby. So welcome aboard. If you're new to my YouTube channel, do please hit the like button if you like the show, and subscribe to my YouTube channel by using your Gmail account, and then you can jump on the chat board and participate in the robust conversation that goes on with all the folks that are there on an almost daily basis. So here's what I did, Joe. I went back, and this run is not included. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I went back and looked at the last 8 runs of the GFS because uh, last night's run really caught my eye in one respect. Now, I want to point out that the European is not like this at all. I would also like to point out that the European has not been very good at all in the last couple of weeks in terms of trying to get hints in the long range. Um, well, I think the GFS actually has been a little bit better. It hasn't, that by no means is saying that the GFS has been perfect because it hasn't been. But watch this loop of the last 8 runs and look at what happens. Focus on that area up near Greenland. And you're going to see that on this particular run, on the last frame, which it'll be the 200. I believe it's the 228 hour from last night, or the 234. Look at the block that is up there. And also, all of a sudden, we've got a 50-50 low again. Now, I saw this and I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. One of the big issues now is if you look in the West and look across the Pacific. It's horrible. If you're a snow lover,
It's a
it's
fire hose.
it's a fire hose. Do you know that we've been talking about the not having the teleconnection indices for the East Pacific Oscillation, and just kind of eyeballing what it's been doing? Well, I'm going to just run through the today's teleconnections, uh, and we've got the PNA, the Pacific North America Index, trough in the east, ridge in the west, trough at 160, et cetera, and a few other geographic areas part of this equation, running pretty much. Except there's some members that go negative once we get toward around January 6th or 7th, but most of them are slightly positive. Let's call it slightly positive. Maybe a couple of them get to moderately positive from time to time. Okay, well, that's not so bad. The Arctic oscillation is not only strongly negative, but we've got some members that continue to show these sort of off the wall readings, which would mean higher than normal pressures across the Arctic region, and theoretically should also mean that we should have colder air displaced southward through Canada and into the United States. Now, the North Atlantic Oscillation, or the NAO, continues to show, we've actually kind of spiked positive going into Christmas, which makes sense because of the kind of storm we had. And now it crashes negative again, heading into January 1st, and it just oscillates. Some go neutral, some stay negative, but most of the members stay negative right through about, say, January 6th or 7th, which is the end of this forecast period. The East Pacific Oscillation chart, Joe, which I don't have, but I did actually see, has the East Pacific oscillation running anywhere from 3 to 5 standard deviations above the mean
Wow.
in the long range period, and that's based on the European model. So the EPO is the one thing here that is causing problems for snow lovers. Its strongly positive position means that you have to find windows of opportunity where the EPO tries to relax a little bit, and unfortunately, from the standpoint of at least in the short range, that's going to be a tough thing to pull off. But again, I saw this from last night's run, and I'll bring up the upper air.
And so this is what you're alluding to as a crack in the or the door opening up a crack for that period from about the 4th to the 7th of January.
Yes, and I'm going to go last night's run first, so I can illustrate what what I think you know it could happen, and what could happen and does happen are obviously two different things. But right here at this point, um, just hang on one second. I will call you back in 5 minutes. Okay, give me 5 minutes. All right, hang on. All right, hang on one second. Let me wrap up my show. Our show. Um, what you're hearing is my grandson's birthday party. So just let me really quick run through this. So right here, you've got this block, okay? You've got a 50-50 low, you got a block, you've got this energy with this cutoff low that is sitting up in Lake Superior. If it weren't for this mess on the West Coast, we probably would be talking about the potential for something to happen. So what we have to hope for is, for snow lovers, is that the West can relax enough to allow for some room. Otherwise, there will not be any room here. And I'll really quick run through this, the new run, just to see what it's doing. And of course, you see the big blocking high that's up to the north on the 216. It's kind of trying here, Joe. I've only got out to 216 hours, but it doesn't look I mean, it doesn't look all that different from the other run, from the run we just looked at. It's a little bit different out in the Atlantic, but that's what I was alluding to. And if you could see the Pacific perhaps improve in its profile, uh, maybe something uh, could uh, could appear on the horizon in the next couple of days. I do have it. You can see on the close-up on the U.S. loop, you're going to see it, that the trough just doesn't have any room. It's there, but it doesn't really, kind of moves along, and there's not a whole lot of sharp. There's some sharpness to it, but there's just too much going on in the west to give you the room for something to happen here in the east. So anyway, I as I said, it's my grandson's birthday today, so I'm going to go now and sing happy birthday to my little grandson.
Well, it's a good day to be born. As I said, my lovely wife's birthday is today. Your grandson's birthday is today.
Yeah,
So everybody, get on out there, say happy birthday, and
I'm coming right now. I'm saying goodbye. Yes, absolutely. Say happy birthday. Okay, folks. Sorry, gotta go. Have a great Sunday. Joe and I will be back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And happy birthday to my little Nolo.